Hi everyone! This is part 2 of my Amsterdam adventure. So in the previous episode, I showed you where to buy fabrics in Amsterdam. So we went to the bustling Albert Cupstraat market where you can buy good quality fabrics. And I also showed you a shop along New High Street which offers haberdashery and really good fabrics. Today, I thought I'll share 2 other places in Amsterdam that I think would be of interest to you if you are into fashion. So the first one is a must-visit destination since it is the world's only museum for sustainable fashion, and that is the Fashion for Good Museum. And the second place is Rijks Museum. It's not a permanent collection, but they have a current exhibition called Underwear, which runs until June 2024, which I think, again, would be of interest to you. So stay tuned and join me in this adventure. I recently went on a trip to Amsterdam. It was my first time there, so I researched and planned ahead which museums I wanted to visit. If you have been following me for a while, you know that I love paintings, and so it is a given that I would take some time to see the masters. Apart from going to the Van Gogh and Rembrandt Museum, I wanted to see other museums that were unique or interesting, and so I came across the Fashion for Good Museum. On their website, it says the Fashion for Good Museum is an interactive fashion museum for the future of fashion, where we tell the stories behind the clothes you wear and how your choices can have a positive impact on people and our planet. So of course, after reading that, I have to come. One of my reasons for sewing my own clothes is to avoid buying fast fashion. I am open to anything that will educate and motivate me to be a conscious consumer. From the museum quarter, you can take a 10-minute metro ride to the Fashion for Good Museum. If you are not pressed for time, you can also just walk. It's roughly a 30-minute walk from this area. The nearest train station is literally a minute's walk from the museum. It is just across the road as you exit Rokin Station. To be honest, I almost miss it because I was looking for a big sign. I don't know why I expected that when I had already seen what the museum looks like from the street on Google Maps. Admission is €10, but free for holders of the Amsterdam card. You have to pre-book a time slot on their website before you come. The main point of this exhibition is to be inspired by circular fashion. It features inspirational displays that make tangible what the circular fashion industry will look like. Designing for circularity means that we need to be designing without creating waste or pollution, as all materials are continuously reused rather than discarded. At the time of my visit, which was only a few weeks ago, I did not know that this exhibition was the grand finale. The museum will close its doors in June. To be honest, I found this part of the museum the most interesting because of the clothes on the mannequin. In the other rooms of the museum, there were mainly posters to read. They are not as visually appealing as this main exhibit. I know a lot of you are watching from the US, so maybe you haven't seen the Great British Sewing Bee. It's a show for amateur sewists. Each week, they have to complete 3 challenges. One of the challenges is called the Transformation Challenge. In this challenge, contestants are asked to make something out of old clothes or unusual materials, like discarded tents from music festivals. This campsite reminds me of that, but in reverse. This tent is a patchwork of clothes. I wonder if you do the same as I do. Whether the clothes are on display in a museum or on a clothes rack in a shop, I tend to look at how it has been constructed, or if it has an interesting detail. One of the permanent displays here is the history of good fashion, or how this museum came to be. It charts changes in fashion from the 1700s to the present day. For example, the invention of the sewing machine in the 1800s slowly changed the way clothes were made. Clothes that had previously been handmade by tailors or at home began to be mass-produced. It's interesting to see how we've gone from making clothes by hand to buying and disposing clothes so easily these days. The idea of disposable clothing or fast fashion started in early 2000. Selling trendy clothes at low prices expanded globally. This has encouraged the idea that clothing can be disposable. Factories then have to keep up demand on tight margins. Of course, we have also heard of poorly paid garment workers or even child labor. In 2014, the unfortunate collapse of a Bangladesh factory killed more than 1,000 garment workers. In response to this disaster, fashion activists launched the global initiative Fashion Revolution. A social media campaign was launched to encourage consumers to photograph their clothing labels and ask brands, "Who made my clothes?" In 2017, Fashion for Good was launched with the aim of promoting and inspiring a sustainable and responsible clothing industry. The museum is the world's first museum dedicated to sustainable fashion innovation. And in 2020, the museum was officially registered with the Museum Register, meeting the same national standards as the other major museums in the Netherlands. It's so sad to hear that they will be closing their doors for good on the 5th of June 2024. They are evolving into an expanded, collaborative space for mission-driven creatives. And according to their website, the goal is to create more opportunities for collaboration and cross-pollination in the fashion space. The elephant in the room is that the museum isn't busy enough. I've filmed this on a Friday and I think I've only seen 2 other people. Although you have to book a time slot, I didn't think it was necessary. There was an option of a guided tour, but for €40, I thought it was a little too much. In retrospect, if I'd known the museum was closing its doors to the public, I might have done so. I don't remember it being announced on the website when I booked my trip to Amsterdam in February. There's a lot of information to take in. If some of this information was presented by someone, it would break the boredom of reading everything on the wall. I'm not saying it's not interesting, but like I said, there's just a lot to read. They do try to make it as interesting as possible, as you've seen in this video. Here's a challenge for us: guess the materials. The question is, are you able to identify the materials by just feeling the fabric? There were only 3 to guess, but that was fun. I think if your hobby is sewing, you have a head start. But if you need help, there is a new device that can identify the fibers used in clothes. You simply scan the fabric and it tells you the composition in seconds. Devices like this enable circular economy. It enables companies to sort waste efficiently and with less investment. So if you do get the chance to visit the Netherlands before June, do go and visit this museum. I wish we had something like this in the UK or anywhere else in the world. Now I'll take you back to the museum district. Here I'm walking towards the Rijks Museum. For me, this is a must-visit museum. I'm not going to show you the paintings nor the other artworks here. I'm going to talk about one of the current exhibitions called Underwear. This is a Rijks Museum Special Collections display tracing shifts in underwear trends between 1640 and 1940. Underclothing was purely functional in the 17th century, but from the 19th century onwards, fashion increasingly came into play. This was the era of corsets, petticoats, chemise undershirts, and directoire knickers. It's interesting to see that even then, shapewear has been used, but maybe in a different way. There's this panniers and hoops to support wide skirts that makes the wearer's waist appear even slimmer. I don't think that will come back into fashion, but who knows? By the way, it's a little bit eerie walking around here. The clothes look like they're floating in the dark. I was also thinking how cumbersome it must have been to wear these undergarments, especially these ones that look like upside down, unfinished baskets. I searched online for a current version of the panniers. I was surprised to find a very similar one for sale on a fast fashion website. I expected it from Etsy or heritage companies, but not from a fast fashion company. Anyway, back to the exhibition. The word lingerie comes from lunge, which originally meant all household linens. From the mid-19th century onwards, the term was used exclusively to describe women's underwear, which slowly but surely began to be made not only from linen, but also from cotton, silk, and wool, and later from synthetic fabrics. Now here's something that has never really gone out of fashion: corsets. And of course, the main difference between then and now is that you can now wear this as an outerwear. And yes, it's available at your favorite fast fashion stores. Undergarments such as corsets and shapewear played their part in perpetuating the beauty standards of their time. Corsets, for example, help women achieve the desired silhouette by narrowing the waist, flattening or lifting the breasts, and straightening the back. Parents thought they could shape their little daughters' bodies like a lump of wax until well into the 18th century. From the age of 4, wealthier girls wore stays that narrowed their waist, pushed up their breasts, and kept their backs perfectly straight. Although doctors warned as early as the mid-century that the corset was unhealthy, it remained in use until the early 20th century. Over the centuries, lingerie became increasingly decorative. From the mid-19th century, lingerie took on a more sensual character with the increasing use of lace, silk, and distinctive color combinations. An outstanding example of this fashion, shown in the exhibition, is this pink crêpe de chine slip with a white band of appliqué lace and matching briefs. It was also in the 19th century that mass production techniques made lingerie more widely available. I was pleased that this was one of the current exhibitions at Rijks. I do like learning about history this way. On this trip, I wore my recently made jersey outfit. This is one of the challenges on my Make 9 list. I talked about how I made this outfit using McCall's 8365 and my experience in using the Mariflex stretch thread in my previous video. Another me-made item I wore on this trip is this Bondi jersey top. I made this using the Simplicity 8982 pattern. This is perfect for not quite spring weather. This video is part 2 of 2 videos I made about my Amsterdam travel. In the first video, I talk about where to buy fabrics in Amsterdam. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I would also appreciate it if you would subscribe. Until next time, happy travels and happy sewing. Bye!